This is the red, white, and bloom apron from RebsFabStash. Today I'm going to show you two different methods of doing the straps for this apron. And in addition to that, we're going to add pockets to it, and I'm also going to show you how to do a lining. So let's get started. This is just a scrap that I had left over from cutting out the straps, so I'm going to use this to show you one of the, well, actually both methods. First one, we're going to fold it in half, right sides together. And then with a 1/4 inch seam allowance, you're going to sew across here and down this edge. I always backstitch on my seams. When you get to where you're going to turn, make sure your needle is down. You'll get a nice sharper corner. So to turn this, some people have a turning tool. I take a chopstick, sort of get the end poked down a little bit, and take the chopstick get it turned right around. While you're still inside the strap there, poke your corners out so they look nice and crisp. And I actually made a mistake on this. I should have clipped my corners before I turned it, but since you can learn from my mistakes, make sure and clip your corners before you do that. Now we'll go back over to the ironing board and iron this flat, and then you do 1/8 of an inch or 1/4 of an inch top stitching all the way around. And actually I'll show you the sample of that. And this is the finished one, this finished sample showing the top stitching all around. So that's one method. So for the second method, it makes a little bit thinner strap. I prefer a thinner strap on my aprons. So you take your fabric, fold it in half, wrong sides together, press it really nice and crisply, then you'll fold in each edge, iron those down, do it on both sides, bring it up to meet that center press that you did. And you fold those back in and fold it back together. You'll end up with about, it's not quite an inch wide strap. So now there's one little secret to this I want to show you over at the sewing machine. What I do to get a nice end on it is I'll open this back up and fold it so that the backs are right sides together. You can pin it if you want. Then I go and I sew 1/4 inch seam here. You trim the threads there. Trim your corners off at an angle. And then you poke this around this way. Use your chopstick or turning tool, whatever you have. Poke out that corner so it's nice and crisp. Then what you're going to do is just top stitch around all the edges and press right here. This is the sample of that one. So you've got a little bit thinner strap. There's both those straps. This one is the original instructions on the pattern. You'll end up with this width of a strip for the strap, and this is the thinner one. So these are the pockets. I cut 2 pieces, 6 by 7.5 inches, so 6 inches wide, 7.5 inches tall. I'm going to do 2 pockets. I'm lining both pockets, so I cut 4 pieces this side. One of them I put some woven interfacing on. This is SF101. If you have non-woven interfacing, you can use that. I just like on pockets, I like interfacing to give it a little bit of shape. So what you'll do is put these right sides together, pin them, leave an opening at one end, and you'll sew a 1/4 inch seam all the way around. You'll turn it around, poke out your corners nicely. Of course, always trim your corners, and then we'll show you where to place them on the apron. So we're going to place the pockets on the front of the apron. I made 2 pockets. This one I've already sewed down. I'll show you how I placed it on there. Took my long ruler, put one edge against this edge right here on the apron where the bodice and the skirt meet. Sort of a place to line it up lengthwise. Make sure that you're straight across this seam. I come up from this bottom seam here, 4 3/4 inches. And then looks like I'm just a little bit off. That looks pretty darn good. I'll leave it there. Then you just pin it down and sew around 3 edges. I used a longer stitch length, a 3 stitch length, and stitched it at about 1/8 of an inch from the edge all the way around. And that is your pockets. We're going to cut out the lining for the apron now. I've taken the apron, the backing fabric for the apron. It's folded right sides together with the selvages meeting. I placed it nice flat, spread it all out. And you're going to take the apron. We don't have the straps attached yet. We don't want them attached yet. We're doing the backing. So you're going to fold it in half, matching all your edges. And then I like to pin it in place so that it doesn't shift on me. You don't have to do a lot of pins, just enough to keep those edges matched up. Always make sure and match these seams too. I want that top edge to match. And then, when that's good, you feel like it's in place well, you're going to move it so that the folded edge of the apron is even with the folded edge of the fabric. Less cutting is always better. So we'll move that up. I'll place a couple pins along here so that it doesn't shift, so that I know that I've got it lined up properly. Alternately, if you have tissue paper or butcher paper, you could make a paper pattern doing it the same way. Especially if you plan on making more than one of these. They'd make great gifts, so if you're going to do something like that, I would make the pattern out of some tissue paper or butcher paper or something. Then we'll just smooth it all out, pin it in place, and then we're just going to cut it. Ta-da! I'll unpin everything. And here is backing for the apron. Next step will be placing the straps. So I've put the apron and the lining or backing right sides together. This is the short neck strap. I'm going to mark 3/8 of an inch in from that outside edge. And I'm going to line up the strap with that. I'm going to stick the strap outside just a little bit and pin that in place. And then inside, you want to move the strap over so that you don't run over it. Like that. we'll do that over here with the second strap. And make sure that it's the raw unfinished edge sticking out, because you want the pretty edge showing. So I always put your seamed edge, where you brought the edges together, to the outside. Do the same thing and go 3/8 of an inch. Your seam allowance is 1/8, or is a 1/4 inch, sorry. So that leaves you a little bit of room for maneuvering when you're putting these straps in. Do the other one. I don't know why I'm doing it from the top. It'd be smarter to do it from this side. This is a disappearing marking pen, so that I don't have to worry about it showing later. Okay, so then you would just finish pinning all the way around. Then down at the bottom, leave yourself 6 to 8 inch opening at the bottom to turn the apron around. So then you just sew a 1/4 inch all the way around, turn it around, and poke out all your corners. Trim your corners, of course. Turn it around, press it nicely, and then I do a 1/8 inch top stitching all the way around. It helps hold the straps in place. I think it just gives it a nicer finish, and then you're done. Just a couple hints before turning it. I've sewn all the way around, and what I did was, where the straps are, I sewed back and forth a couple of times on the top straps and side straps. It just reinforces them a little bit. Then on this curve, I took my pinking shears and just trimmed that so that that curve will relax a little bit when you finish turning it. And then the other thing I would recommend is to just give the whole thing, all your seams, a good press before you turn it. So that'll help you then when you're turning it around and getting ready to press it flat so that you can do your top stitching. And make sure and trim off your corners. That was my sewing buddy, Miss Jazzy. Here's the finished apron. Got the backing on, turned it, did my 1/8 inch top stitching all the way around. Here's the back side. Needs another good ironing. Turned out pretty darn cute. I was going to say there's an alternate way to do the top strap. I'm not a big fan of straps that tie. So what you could do is you could put just one strap, leave this one off, either side, and then put a snap here and 3 different snaps here so you have it adjustable. This is an apron I made last year, and so I put a snap here, and then the strap has 3 different snaps so that you can adjust it to whatever length you want the next strap. I find it more comfortable. If you're really going to wear an apron and work in it, I like that better. But anyway, there you are. The red, white, and bloom apron from RebsFabStash. Thanks, everybody.